All right, the recording has started. Welcome to Mermaid Sunset in Watercolor as part of our Kids March Break Camp Week. I'm so glad you guys could join us for this. So this is the fourth day. You guys already did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today's Friday. So let's talk about supplies. I'm just going to move that over there a little bit. I do have watercolor paper. Did I even introduce myself? My name is Chris. Chris is short for Kristen. Feel free to call me Chris or Kristen. So here's the paper I'm using today. This one's a little bit bigger than this one, but you could do this any size that you want to do, bigger, smaller. Maybe you want to do this on a canvas, on maybe mixed media paper. That would be okay. So I've got, mine's quite big, 11 by 15. Nice big pad of paper. I'm going to be using this plate to trace a circle for this big circle. Is it the moon or what is that? But I'm going to use this plate to trace. So get a plate that's, smaller than the paper or the canvas that you plan to use. That just makes sense. A plate. I've got a pencil and an eraser. Any kind of pencil, any kind of eraser would be fine. I've got just like a mechanical pencil, makes nice thin lines. And then let's move this over here. I do have a ruler just to help me make that nice straight line of the ocean. But if you don't have a ruler nearby, you can use the straight edge of anything, like the straight edge of this, of a Kleenex box that's nearby, a book that's nearby, literally anything with a straight edge. It doesn't have to be ruled, doesn't have to have measurements on it. I do have a bit of masking tape, but that's optional. You don't have to have masking tape. I'm going to make kind of a masking tape border around my painting for this one. But as you can see in the original, I didn't make a masking tape border. I just went right to the edge of my paper. So you decide if you want to have a white border or no border. And I use the masking tape for the white border. I've got some paintbrushes with me today. I've got like a big and a small, and then I've got like an even smaller one. But you can do this whole painting with just like one paintbrush. You can. If you just have one paintbrush available, that's fine. But I've got some different sizes just in case I want to mix it up a little bit. I'll put those there. I have some watercolor paints. The brand I'm using today is Beam Paints, B-E-A-M, but you can use any brand of paint that you want. And I always like to have like a little area to do some mixing in. So here's where I'll do some mixing in this little lid, but you could do some mixing on like a little palette, on a plate, maybe a Tupperware, just to do some extra mixing if you want to mix like two colors together. That's what that's for. So there's the paints I'm going to use. You don't have to have as many. If you just have like a set of 10 or 12, that would be okay. I have a jar of water for my watercolors. So that's where I'll get the water, rinse my brush in that jar. And I just have a little piece of tissue or what's the word? Paper towel. A little piece of paper towel to dry my brush on. And then I do have some, give it a little shake, some white acrylic paint to do the white clouds. These white clouds. If I did, say, the white clouds with the white watercolor, it wouldn't be very white. It'd be kind of see-through. So that's why I did the white acrylic. So it's like really white. So I've got a little white acrylic just from the dollar store. And then also optionally, I do have some black acrylic paint handy. If you want to do the black of your sky with black acrylic, you can, or you can do the black of your sky with the black watercolor. I do have black watercolor. That would work just fine too. I think that's all the supplies I have. That's it. I'm just going to move some of these over here for a sec. We're going to do our drawing first. So get a piece of paper. You could keep it in the book or you could take it out. I like to take it out. But you could definitely keep it in, like this one right here. I kept it in the book. Different options here. I'll make a bigger version today to show you. Okay, now this is optional. I'm going to put tape around my edges so I get a nice white border, but you don't have to do that. You can skip that part if you want your painting to go right to the edges of your paper. And I use this is like a painter's tape or masking tape, something that's not very sticky, because we wouldn't want it to rip our paper when we take the tape off. All the way around, nice white border. What else could you could use washi tape, if you've ever heard of washi tape. That sometimes works pretty good too. There we go. Pardon me. Oh, my plate is my plate gonna fit? It's pretty tight. It does fit. If you wanted to get like a slightly smaller plate where there's more black down the sides, my plate is a little too big, but I think it's cute. I think that'll work. Your pencil and your eraser and your ruler. Let's do, shall we do the line for the ocean first? I think that makes the most sense. So wherever you want your ocean to go up to, do you want it to be halfway? Do you want it to be down here, like maybe a third? And if you don't have a ruler, use the edge of a book, use the edge of a magazine, use the edge of your tablet, wherever you want the ocean to come up to. I would say a third-ish, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, maybe a quarter. But we do want to have some lovely ocean visible. We don't want like a teeny tiny little ocean. Maybe like that. I think that's a good chunk of ocean. And then we'll bring in the plate. So is this a moon? Could be perceived as a moon, like a rainbow moon. Or you could perceive it as whatever you want to imagine it as. A planet. Could be a planet. Could just be decorative. A decorative design. So my circle dips below that horizon line, but I'm just going to trace the upper portion, just the top portion of the circle, because it goes down below the horizon. So that's all we need. We don't need the plate and the ruler anymore. We can put that to the side. They've done their job. Yeah, my plate's a little big, but it works. The circle's still within my painting. But if you had like a circle that's like maybe this big, would be nice too. Good. So that's it for the pencil for now. Slow down, Peyton? Sure. We've just got a line so far and most of a circle. That's all we've done. And we don't need to draw anything else yet, because we're going to do the mermaid later. And it doesn't have to be a mermaid. What if you want to do a merman? What if you want to do a pelican, a family of seagulls, or a human sitting on the rock with a telescope, or a pirate with a peg leg looking at a map? It doesn't have to be a mermaid silhouette. Think about different ideas of what could be looking out at the sunset at the ocean. It could be your dog, your cat. I don't know how they got to this rock, but maybe they had a little swim in the ocean. Just imagine all the different possibilities you can put as a silhouette there. So that's all we've got so far, a straight line and most of a circle. We're going to get our paints going here. And your sunset colors could be whatever colors you want. You don't have to do the exact colors that I'm doing. Maybe you want more, you want some greens in there, you want more purple and less blue. Any colors you want to do. Get my water in here. I like to use quite a big brush because we're doing kind of big areas. But let's see. Do you have a question, hun?
Could you please slow down?
Yeah, always. Have you got the line drawn?
We're still working on getting it drawn.
Yeah, it's just one line and then right around your plate. That's all you need to do. I'm going to keep going and explaining what we're doing, and you just keep going along at your pace. So we're going to add, I'm going to add yellows first, kind of at the bottom of my moon, and then I'm going to work up with oranges, pinks, purples, blues, or the colors of your choice. You could do yellow, then red, then blue, then green if you want. It doesn't have to be the same colors I'm doing. So this is my nice big brush, lots of water on there. I'm going to get yellow first. Get some nice yellow going. And watercolors, you kind of have to rub the pan, the little cake, with your wet brush to like activate it. So I'm going to put yellow along the bottom here of the moon. And I like to go kind of back and forth. And it's okay if you go outside of your circle. So see here, I went kind of outside my circle a little bit, and over here, kind of went outside. That's all right, because we're going to cover that up with black later on. So it'll be okay. So there's some yellow. Maybe a little bit more yellow. Maybe I'll bring the yellow kind of up here. Any amount if you want to go more yellow, less yellow. But it's a very, very wet and almost like a puddle. You can even dip your brush in just plain water, and just kind of like swish it around with some extra water. And all these next colors, we have to do them one after another so that the wet paint and the next color of wet paint kind of blend together. So we can't kind of stop really between colors. We just have to go on to the next color. So in my case, I'm going to do some lovely orange. If you want to choose a different color instead, please do. Pink would be lovely. So I'm going to rub my orange with my wet brush, rub. And you can put it kind of right next to your yellow. Again, you can go outside of your circle a little bit. Right next to my yellow. And then let them kind of touch each other. Let the orange and yellow touch each other, blend into each other, mix into each other on purpose. So now all my yellow and orange is kind of touching, bleeding, blending. You could put some extra water on there too. And then go right into your next color because we can't let each color dry. We want each color to be wet. I'm going to do a little bit of pink or magenta. If you don't have pink or magenta, you could do some lovely red. And purposely let them touch and bleed and blend. And we're going further and further up the circle. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing below for the water. Yeah, so some of the orange is bleeding into the pink, some of the pink is bleeding into the orange. That's okay. We want that. You could put in like a little extra water, swish that around. So then do you want to do red as your next color as an option, or do you want to go into purple as your next color? You guys can decide. I'm going to do some purple. Light purple, dark purple, any purple. And again, some of my color is going outside of the circle, and that's okay. We're going to cover that up with black. There's some purple. You can add a little extra water if you want. And then for a last color, I'm almost at the top of my circle. I'll do blue, but let's say you already filled in the whole circle. Then you're good. You don't have to add blue. I'm going to add some blue. Maybe you have more room in your circle than I do. You could add a second color after the blue. So maybe a lighter blue, maybe green, whatever color you think. There, so we can see things are making interesting shapes. We call those cauliflowers or blooms. Things are making like weird little paths where it kind of started to seep into the other colors. That's okay. There's some bits that are darker, lighter, like a texture is happening here in the blue. All of those things are okay. That's part of watercolor painting. And my paper is kind of bumping up a little bit. If your paper is also kind of bumping up, you can kind of bend your paper back to sort of be flat again. But as it dries, it'll flatten out. Yeah, so I like all the different kind of shapes that are forming. Okay, so we do have to keep painting on, keep trucking on, because we only have, what, the hour? We're going to do the same kind of colors that we just did, but upside down in the water. So we'll start with yellow here, orange, pink, purple, blue as we go down and out. So if you look at this first painting, it's kind of like shape of a U shape. So I'll do a little yellow here, orange, pink, purple as a U, blue in the corners, kind of a thing. So all the same colors you just used. So I'll start my yellow kind of like not the whole rest of the circle. Remember we had not drawn this circle here. We're kind of going to fill that in our imagination. So here's some yellow. And again, you could add a little extra water. To your yellow. It's like a shallow bowl shape of yellow. And then whatever the next color you used above is the next color you're going to use below. So in my case, orange. So just put a little orange right up against that yellow. Let it touch, let it bleed. And you could go right to the edge here if you want. Yeah, it just dips down some orange. Some of it's going into the yellow. You You can add a little extra water if you want to add a little extra water. And then move right into your next color because we want wet and wet. So I had some pink. So pink is my next color. Let it touch the orange. Let it go all the way to the sides. You can add a little extra water. And you see how mine is messy. You can't really control where things are going. So a lot of my orange is going like that way. That's okay. So there's some, that was my lovely pink color. Next was my purple color. Where was that? Here it is. And don't worry if you're one color behind me, two colors behind me, maybe you're a color ahead of me. Just keep going at your pace. You do have to work wet and wet, so everything needs to be kind of one after another. This is purple. It's touching the pink. It's blending with the pink a little bit. I'm still kind of making it dip down. Interesting shapes are happening in here. A little extra water if you want. Dab that around. And then the whole rest of it, whatever your last color is. So in my case, it's blue. So even if you have like a whole bunch more space, maybe more than me, the rest of it's going to be that color. So I'm going to do blue. If you prefer, you could do purple all the way down to the bottom. I'm letting the purple and blue touch and mix and blend. Lovely. Yeah, some interesting little edges are happening here. Some people might call that like a mistake. It's not a mistake. That's all part of watercolor. These shapes that happen, this kind of texture called granulation. That's a-okay. Little blobbies like that, little dark blobbies like that. That's okay. And yeah, my paper is a little bit bumpy. So if you wanted to bend your paper, you can bend it back to normal, or at least sort of normal. And paint will move. See, these little drips, they're on the move. They are happy little accidents. That's right, Peyton. It's all part of it. Okay, so if you've got your whole moon filled in and you've got your ocean filled in, it's still very wet. I know it's still very wet. If you're looking at your painting and you see very deep, deep puddles, so here's kind of a deep puddle right here. I'm going to take, you can take either a corner of your little paper towel, a little bit of that, or maybe you have a Kleenex or a tissue nearby, and just soak it up just a little bit. Just touch it a little bit with the corner. And it just kind of, it sucks it up a little bit and makes the puddle less deep. lightly tapping, because we want this to dry in a few minutes so we can add wave ripples or mermaid, that kind of thing. So just in your deepest puddly areas. Lightly touching. That's pretty good. So this is going to be drying as we work on like the upper sky, the night sky. Yeah, so this portion should be a little bit drier than this portion because it's been sitting here longer. So I'm going to start to fill in the black here. Now, if let's say your blue is still a little wet here, just work on kind of out here for now. And then at the very end, get really close to your blue so we don't have too much black going into the blue. But I'm going to work kind of up here. We're going to fill in whatever's left with black and then even cover up some of the bits where we went kind of over the line, a little bit messy. So you can use black watercolor, and I'll show you what that looks like. You just rub the black really hard with your wet brush. Get a little bit more water. Rub it. Oh, got a little speckle there. That's okay. So it is nice and black. Black watercolor is pretty black. But if you have some black acrylic nearby and you want to use that to get like a really rich black, you can do that instead, which is what I think I will do. Just gonna dab that up a little bit. So yeah, two different options. Or if you have black marker, you can use any kind of black marker to fill in your sky. That would be all right. Black Sharpie would be all right too. Any kind of black art material that you want to fill in your sky, go ahead. Yeah, see, black acrylic is just really nice and black as an option. Even like black pastel. If you had pastels, that would work really well. So again, if your blue is still pretty wet, just avoid the area for a few minutes and do all the rest. And sometimes I like to turn my painting. I'm working here, so why don't I just flip the whole thing around so that it's closer to me and maybe a little bit easier. Yeah, flip it around. It's a good idea. And get real close to your pencil line of the circle. It's okay if you don't have a perfectly smooth circle, that's fine. It's also fine if maybe your horizon line isn't super straight and smooth because maybe the ocean is a little bit wavy. So it wouldn't be perfectly straight. It'd be kind of bumpy. I just love the contrast of the light kind of pastels of the watercolor with the blackness, the darkness. It's a great contrast. So I've got my black night sky on there. Keep filling in yours. And keep thinking in your mind about what kind of silhouette you want to do. It doesn't have to be a mermaid. Keep that in mind. Could be a lobster on a rock. You could do some rocks in the ocean and then a dolphin jumping over here. A whale tail coming out of the ocean. Anything you can imagine. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you another minute if you're still working on your black sky. And then we'll talk about what we're doing next. So I am going to use my pencil for my silhouette, but if you want to just go at the silhouette with paint right away and you don't want to do the pencil, you can. Sometimes it's just nice to sketch things out before committing. Is this area of your painting getting nice and dry? Is the paper soaking up the water? Is the water evaporating? If you have any really wet areas in here still, get your tissue or your paper towel and just dab, kind of soak up the really wet bits. If you have wet bits, mine's pretty dry. Mine's pretty good. Yeah, even way down here, it's pretty dry. That's good. So if you're still working on your black sky, keep going at it as I talk about the mermaid, and then you can catch up as we go. Any kind of object sitting on anything else? Do you want them to be sitting on rocks? Would you rather it be a pirate on a rowboat, or some rocks to the side and a kraken coming out of the ocean, a big octopus? Whatever you feel like adding as a silhouette to this painting would look amazing. So you're just going to take your pencil and outline the shape that you want. So in my case, 2 rocks and a mermaid. So I'll start with the rocks, I think. So any lumpy shape for the rock, and mine goes up above the horizon line, just a little. Any lumpy shape. It could be more jagged, could be smaller or bigger. So there's a lumpy shape with my pencil. And then the bottom is flat, is straight, because it's in water. So you could use your ruler and draw a straight line, or just kind of wing it, straight line across the bottom of the rock. And even if it's a little bit like wiggly, this line here, that's okay, because it's in water. So the water would be kind of wiggly, don't you think? And then I have a second smaller rock, or any kind of shape. Here's another rock here. Doesn't have to be, yeah, my 2 rocks here aren't the same. These ones aren't the same. Doesn't have to be. And then a mermaid. I kept the mermaid pretty simple in that she's facing away from us. So we don't need to do, say, like her face. So we just get like the back of her hair and her, the telltale fin flipper, if you will. So I'll probably start my mermaid with her bum sitting on the rock, a round bum on a rock. And this would be like the thigh of a human, right? The thigh part is nice and thick. And then it does bend at the knee. She's got a bit of a knee kind of situation. And then any kind of fin or flipper. It could be a bigger fin. It could be more fancy. It could be more of like a triangle. What else kind of shapes a mermaid tail? Could be maybe like a leaf shaped tail. 2 of those, 2 leaf shapes as a tail, because you can have different, species of mermaid, I'm sure, have different tails. So mine kind of does like a flippy uppy thing. Any style of tail you prefer. And if you need to like adjust anything, you can draw a new line. And all this is going to get filled in with black. So it's okay if like I start to make like a mistake and then I just draw a new line over here instead, because that's going to get colored in with black. So if you need to make something bigger, I could just, literally make it bigger like that. So that's her like lower body. And then we'll make, this is like the start of where her waist would be, where her stomach would be. And then I have a mermaid holding a trident. I thought that would be cool. Like she's a warrior mermaid. She's maybe a guard. But you could have your mermaid holding literally anything. You want her to hold a conch shell, like a shell, and that could be maybe her like a trumpet, like an alarm sound, could be a conch. She could be holding just like a scallop shell, seashell. Maybe she's brushing her hair and you want her to hold a hairbrush, or like literally anything, a book. this mermaid likes to read, maybe. Like anything at all. So I like to add like a shoulder shape, the shape of a shoulder out to a elbow. This would be the lower arm. It's bent elbow here. And then I really kept my hand simple in that it's just a rounded blob. So she's like, you know, this is the trident. She's just holding it like this. So you just get the impression of this shape, not really a lot of finger detail. It's a silhouette, just kind of a rounded blob, a fist. And then I'm going to have a trident. And it goes through her tail, through her body, but it doesn't actually go through. You know, it's on the side of her. Nice straight trident. If you want to use your ruler, go ahead and use your ruler. And then, yeah, any trident design you want to do. I did a pretty basic, like a U shape with a little bit of a slightly taller one in the middle. Like a rounded fork. Rounded fork, give it some spikes on the end. Prongs, barbs, if you will. And then as for the rest of her, I just did kind of like the top of her hair and then just had cascading curls. That's like the top of her head. And then just have the curls waving down past her shoulder. You can go past her bum. You could keep it like a little bit shorter. Any kind of hairstyle you like. But I have it coming out quite a bit here so that it's kind of covering like where her face and neck would be. She's just facing away from us, looking off into the distance. Maybe she's on guard. Yeah, so even though the shoulder, you know, it'll get covered up by hair, I still like drawing that part just to get kind of where the arm would be. Yeah, so all this will get filled in. And you could erase if you want to adjust and move anything, make something bigger, longer, skinnier, shorter, erase, adjust. But otherwise, we just fill that in with black. So I'm going to do my black watercolor. You could do your black acrylic, black Sharpie, black pencil crayon. Doesn't even have to be black. What if you want to do a purple silhouette? That would be amazing too. You know, even as you're filling it in, you can adjust and make things different shapes if you want to make the rock lumpier and go outside your lines. You can make it even lumpier and bumpier, longer. It's okay if it's not like fully black. If it's like a little bit grayish, that's fine too. There's my warrior mermaid. She's on guard. I don't know from what. Humans, I guess. Oh, and I need my other little rock. Another little rock there. Anything else you want to add in silhouette? You could do birds in the sky, black birds flying, maybe like a crab or a seagull sitting next to her, something swimming here or jumping out of the water, maybe a little fish, maybe a little pelican, seagull floating on the water. What else could be interesting? Anything you can think of that you want to add, you can do that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Keep filling in your silhouette. Maybe you're already done your silhouette. We will add some white highlights to that in a bit. Okay. So I'll talk about what we're going to do next as you're filling in your silhouette. We're going to add some more colors, like ripples, to our ocean. So in the kind of warm color area where we've got yellow, orange, pink, we'll add more stripes of those colors, yellow, orange, pink, purple, just in kind of short little lines. They could be wiggly because they're ripples. And then as we get out to the more cooler colors out here, purples and blues out here. And these lines could be fat, thin, short, long, straight, wrinkly, wibbly, anything you want. And they could touch each other, bleed into each other. That would be okay. Mix up the colors, different spots. It's lots of fun. Lots of fun. And then after that, we're going to do some finger painting. I love finger painting for clouds. It's my favorite. All right, so yeah, if you are still working on your black, keep working on the black of the silhouettes. And then when you're done that, we're going to add some colors into our ocean as ripples. So I'm going to start with yellow. Yellow on kind of like a smaller brush. And all of the lines you're making are horizontal, like this. None of them are up and down. None of them are diagonal. They're all horizontal. I guess yellow is kind of a tough one to start with because you can't really see. Oh, I think you could see some of those yellows. So here's some yellow lines here and there, wherever you want, as many as you want. Okay, yellow's not a great one to start with. I'll do some orange so you can really see the lines I'm making. Some orange. And you could have, there could be gaps. It doesn't have to be fully filled in. Oh yeah, there's the orange. I think you might be able to see the orange a little better. Yeah, there's some short ones, long ones. Just right over top of whatever's going on underneath. So some orange on top of purple, that's fine. So I've got a bit of yellow, I've got a bit of orange, bit of pink, bit of purple, whatever colors you had before, use those same colors for these little stripy lines. Here's some pink. Some of them are short, some of them are long. Some of them are touching other lines, that's fine. So I did some pink, I'm going to do some purple. Ooh, that's really dark. That's fine. Didn't mean for it to be that dark. That's okay. So I'm not really going to do purples in like this area. I'll just keep my purples over here with my blues. But if you want to put some purples in amongst there, go ahead. Purple. Some blue going. You could get different shades of blue if you have one or two shades of blue. Put some green in there, even if you haven't had any green yet in this painting and you feel like you want to add some green. I would love to see that. Some blue. I'm going to get another color of blue. Why not? See what that's like. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be fully filled in. There could be lots of gaps. And you could go back and do other colors that you did before and you want more of them. So let's say I want a bit more yellow. I can go back and add some more yellows. They could be touching other colors, overlapping other colors. Go back and get some more orange and pinks and purples. If you feel like you didn't have enough the first time around. some orange, and then maybe I want a little bit more of my pink. Up to you. Up to you which ones you want to add additional little bits more here and there. Got a few of my pinks out here amongst the blues, just for some extra interest down here. Maybe a little bit more on the sides. Yeah, go right to your edges. Don't forget about your edges. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Yeah, at a certain point, you just think to yourself, hey, that looks done. That looks good. So that's pretty much it for the watercolors. We'll just finish the rest of the image with our white acrylic, which we haven't used yet, white acrylic. So keep filling in your ripples as much as you want until you're satisfied. And then get a little white acrylic out. So we're gonna probably less than 10 minutes, 10 more minutes, and then we'll be all done. I've got some really cool combinations of colors in my ripples here, and some of them are bleeding into each other. That's okay. That's all right. Let me show you what we're doing for the clouds. It's super fun. We're going to use our fingers. We're going to finger paint our clouds. Some people don't like having, paint on their fingers. You don't have to use your fingers. If you'd rather use a brush and do kind of little swirly cloud shapes with your brush, you could do that instead. But I just love using my fingers. It's so much fun. So keep painting your ripples until you're ready, and then get a little paint on your finger. You don't need a lot. And we're going to be dabbing. So you can do little dabs like that, or little swirl shapes. So moving your finger in a circular swirl. So a combination of dabs and swirls. And here's where I have my clouds here. They don't have to be in the exact same places. You can do them in the places that you want. Some of my clouds are on my black. Some of my clouds are on my color. Wherever you want to put clouds. And you could go right onto like your tape on the edge. If you have tape, you could go right off the page. If you're going right to the edge of the page, go right off the page. As many or as few clouds as you want. And I like to have them kind of getting kind of wispy and thin as you kind of go in. A little bit wispier, thinner. So kind of a big chunky part of the cloud. And then as I go in this way, it's getting a little thinner, kind of see-through. And then it just trails off to nothing. As many as you want, maybe at least 3. I would say 3 minimum, 3 to 6 would be a good amount, I think. And it's okay if the clouds are a little bit see-through, because clouds are sometimes see-through. Or if your cloud is kind of turning a different color. So what if some of the paint that you have is kind of mixing in with your white and your cloud turns a little bit pinkish or a little orangish? That's perfect. That's like bonus shading that you didn't even have to do yourself. There we go. I'm trailing off any amount. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. I'll do one more here. I'm going to do 5 clouds, but you do you. I think it's fun to paint with fingers. You can have little baby clouds. I think that's a good amount for me. You can have more or less, smaller ones, bigger ones, really ones that like stretch right out. And then I wipe my finger off on tissue, or you can go wash your hand if it really bothers you. But yeah, a little bit of paint on your finger won't hurt you. We're almost done, guys. Bear with me. I know it's probably close to lunch, or it is lunchtime for you guys, isn't it? Let's finish it off with stars and highlights. So I'll show you what I do. If you're still dabbing your clouds, keep at it. And then you're going to move on to your stars. So I like to use the butt of the brush. So not the brush part of the brush, but the other end, the wrong end of the brush. So pick a nice, maybe nice thin brush. And I just dip it in white, and then dot, 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 dot. So every time you dip it into the paint, you could probably get 4, maybe 5 dots for stars. And then like the paint kind of runs out. So dot, 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 dot. That was 5. They just get really small. There's barely any paint left after that. And I just kind of dot them around on the black. I just do the black areas. I mean, if you really felt strongly about dotting some stars in this kind of colored circle moon area, you can definitely put some stars in there if you want. And you don't need a lot. Don't need a ton. You could make certain constellations if you want. You can hide your initials in the constellations if you want. And then I'll show you how I did kind of like a shiny star, like a twinkling star, these guys. I literally just make a dot of white, and then I drag the paint with the butt of my brush. I drag it up, I drag it down, I drag it to the side, I drag it to the other side. Just little drag marks. So you make a dot, dot, drag it up, drag it down, to the side, to the side. And if you want it to be, 4 pointed like that, which is what we just did, or if you want 8 points, you just need to drag it to the diagonals as well. So sometimes you need a little bit more paint. So put a little more paint in the middle. Drag it to the diagonal, 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 diagonal. So that's extra twinkling. I suppose I could show you how I would do a shooting star. If I wanted to do a shooting star, I would just make a dot of paint. Nice big thick dot of paint. and then drag it to make that tail of the shooting star. So I would drag the paint maybe this way. So then it's like a shooting comet. If you like that look, you don't have to do that one. That's it for the stars. Wipe off the butt of your brush so you don't make a mess on your table or your hand. Okay. And then the very last thing is little highlight. So here we have little bumps on our rocks of white. We could put texture in her hair if you want. And any other little like edges where you want to put a little white highlight to kind of give it a little bit more detail, a little more depth, just little bits of white here and there near the edges with a small brush. Find your smallest brush and you can have little rocky bumps, any shapes. And it's okay if maybe your white turns a little bit grayish from the paint underneath. That's kind of a cool effect. And don't forget your little baby rock over here. Little lumpy, bumpy shapes. I can give her hair some extra curly texture. You could put a little bit of white along her fin, along her little flipper tail down here, like highlights. There, it just gives it a little bit more texture, adding little white lines here and there. Wonderful. So I'm going to do my tape pull. If you don't have tape, you don't have to pull off the tape. And when I do my tape pull, I do it slowly and carefully so I don't rip the paper. And you should probably wait till it's like fully dry, but I think most of my white of the clouds is pretty dry. So I think I'm okay. And I think all my ripples are dry at this point too. There we go. And everyone's going to get a copy of the recording of this Zoom. So if you want to do this painting again, or you fell behind, you want to keep working on it, that email is going to go out right away after we're done the Zoom. I'm going to sign my painting. So you could use your whole name. You could use just your first name. You could put your age. You could just put your initials if you want. Oh, you could put the year, what year it is, 2022. I like just using my initials when I'm signing. So there we go. You could add other things, add birds, something in the water. Yeah, anything you want. Okay, I'm gonna end the recording here.